Hi, everybody. I'm Diana. Welcome to Heartfelt Creative. We're ready for another Monday, and that must mean patches and pieces. I hope everyone had a great weekend. We live just a little bit south of Chicago, and we had a lovely weekend. Let me try and get that. Always looking out for that glare. We had a great weekend. Saturday was a little bit rainy, but it turned out to be okay. We were still able to do the things we needed to do. Sunday started out cloudy, but became a beautiful sunny day. And so my husband was able to get the lawn mowed, which was on his to-do list, not my to-do list. And so it turned out to be a lovely weekend all the way around. So today's Patches and Pieces block is actually by special request. And so let me just say this. If you ever have a block that you want me to demonstrate, just drop me a note, either in the comments on a previous Patches and Pieces or at the Facebook page, Heartfelt Creative with Diana, or at my Facebook group page, which is So In Common, SEW in Common. You can drop me a note there as well. And I'm happy to demonstrate. And today's block, technically, I've never made a block like this before. And so today's block is purely from my imagination and how I thought this type of a block would go, because it's what I would call a figural block. My good friend Zoe, we were talking last week, and she said, "Have you ever made a birthday cake block?" And I thought, no, I can't ever remember making a birthday cake block, but I'm not sure that we couldn't come up with something. So I told her I would come up with something and demo it today. And so this is the base block right here. Looks like a cake. Now, I'm not calling it a birthday cake, though. I'm calling it a celebration cake, because you can decorate this. And I'm gonna, if you saw the picture, the thumbnail picture for this video, you saw it had little decorations on it. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how you can do that. But as a celebration cake, you can use it for birthdays, anniversaries, somebody got good grades in school, someone got a promotion at work or got a new job altogether, or someone graduated from college or high school or kindergarten. So whenever this block gets put up in the house somewhere, everyone knows it's a day to celebrate. So maybe you put this block up in the afternoon and you put together somebody's favorite dinner because, like I said, they got good grades on their report card. That's a lovely way to celebrate and say, hey, you did great and we're proud of you. So you can do anything like this. And with this pattern, if you did the background, the white part, in a different color, you could do the cake all in white. Maybe do some silver or gold trimmings on it and some white flowers or something, because you can look and see how some anniversary cakes and wedding cakes are decorated from pictures online. And then you could kind of try and recreate that and do that. Maybe for if you have parents or grandparents that are going to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary, do the cake in white, do some gold trim and stuff on it, some flowers. That would be a lovely gift for them. And they would always, I know, they would always adore it because it came from you. So we're going to talk about putting together this basic block. There is technically no pattern other than what we're going to talk about here, but the measurements for the fabric is listed down below here. So here on YouTube, it's listed down below. If you watch this over on the Facebook page, Heartfelt Creative with Diana, then it'll be listed there as well. And if you like this video, if you like some of the Patches and Pieces videos, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on that little bell, and then you'll get notifications whenever I put out new content. So this is going to be pretty simple. I forgot to bring my camera over. That always helps, right? When I'm going to do an overhead camera, to actually have a camera there. There we go. Well, I'll adjust that when we're ready. But so I'm going to flip the camera over now, and we're going to get started on the creation of the base block. And then at the end, we'll talk about decorating it, okay? Because you can really decorate this block kind of like you could decorate pretty much any cake. Oh, the other thing I was thinking about, if you have a kiddo who's really into like a specific Disney movie like Cars or Toy Story, or you've got somebody, even an adult, who is still into the Disney princesses. There's fabric out there, licensed fabric that you could get. And so you could use that fabric and then decorate it and make them their own personalized Disney cake block. That would be fun. If you could do this block as a full quilt, if you wanted to make a bunch of them. If you do that, when we come to the decoration, I'm going to talk about how you would do that different probably than you would if you were just going to make a lot. Okay. All right, here we go. Let me flip the camera over. There we go. All right, good. Oh, hey, that was a pretty good lineup right from the beginning. Sometimes I surprise even myself. Okay, so here we go. Here is our, let me turn it so you can see it. I always do that when it's upside down. There we go. So there's our cake block. So we're going to start out with our base block. Then we're going to add our middle block and our top block, and then our sides. So you're going to need, I chose white as my background fabric, but you could choose any fabric you wanted, really. I would choose something definitely that is a contrast to the colors that you're going to use for the cake so that the cake pops out. All I did when I chose these colors is I literally went to my scrap box and chose some fabrics that I thought looked like they would be part of a cake, right? That like a pre-decorated cake. So I thought, yeah, someone could do dots on a cake. I thought this one looked like somebody, you know, a cake decorator might put those little candy flowers all over or do those by hand. And here I thought this looked like confetti. And I used this fabric right here as a Moda Grunge fabric. And I thought, oh, that's fun. It looks like maybe they've striped it with one of those tools they use. And this one, I thought it's got all this little lacy stuff in here. So I thought it was appropriate for the top. But that is the most effort that I put into choosing which fabrics I used, because I really kind of wanted them to be bright and fun. And I didn't necessarily want them to be matchy-matchy, but you could make this, like you could make it in all blues or all pinks or all greens if you wanted it for someone. If you wanted to make it for someone whose favorite color was orange, you could use different tones of orange, maybe put in a couple of different lighter colors to go with it or something. So as far as the fabric goes, as far as what you use, let your imagination run wild, okay? Because that's basically what I did. So this first block that we're going to make, we'll set that aside. There's going to be a little bit of waste in this block. And technically, I could have come up with just exact measurements and things and given you all of that. But I want this block to be as simple as possible. And what I found is if we just made bigger pieces and trimmed it all up at the end, that would be easier. Okay, so we're going to start out with our bottom base block. This one is 6.5 inches tall by 10 inches wide, okay? Then our secondary block that we're going to add to it is this one, and it is 4.5 inches high, and you need it to be at least 11 inches wide. I think this one's 12 inches wide, okay? So what we want to do is, if you notice here, we have a diagonal here, right? Don't be worried about it. It's really very simple, and you're just sewing a straight seam like anything else, right? You won't even know you're sewing a diagonal. Okay, so we're going to take our ruler and we're going to count over 3.5. Oh, wait, from this side, sorry. 1, 2, 3.5 inches. And we're going to put our ruler right here at the 3.5 mark. No, that's not right. Oh, 3.5. Okay. I paused there for a second because I could not remember how I cut this. All right, so what we want to do is count down 1, 2, 3, 3.5. I think 3.5 inches on this side. So 1, 2, 3.5. I'm going to measure out my half right here on my block. Turn here. I'm going to give myself a little mark there. So I know, and then I'm going to put my ruler up in this corner, the upper left-hand corner, and bring it down to that 3.5 mark. You see how I did that? I came down 3.5 inches on the right side. Well, yes, on the right side. I was trying to think if this should be different if you're right-handed, because I'm a lefty. But you still want it to come down on the right side. So you may need a rotating mat. Right, and then you're going to be up in this corner. Then you're just going to take your rotary cutter and cut. So let me go over that again with you. I'm not going to take these apart yet. I had to think about that. So on the right side, come down 3.5 inches, put yourself a little dot there. Then place your template up in the upper right-hand corner and then over on that dot. That gives you your diagonal wedge shape, and then just cut it. That's waist now. Now, I'll get a square out of that for my scrap blocks. So I will set that aside, but that's your waist. Now, all we're going to do is take our next piece and place it slightly over that diagonal point. So we're right here. Alexa, stop. Sorry, guys, my app just went off. This is turning out to be kind of a weird time now. So see right here is my point. I want this point just to come slightly over the edge, okay? And then just follow it down and line it up, and it's going to come off this edge. And that's all right, because we're going to be trimming this up, but we just want it over there a little bit. And then I'm just going to put a couple of clips in here. I'm using Wonder clips. You can use pins if you like, or whatever you like. So I'm going to flip the camera over to the sewing machine. Okay. All right, good. Okay, we're all lined up. So now we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam. We're going to use just your average stitch length of 2.5, 2.0, whatever you normally use. And we're just going to sew down straight. So you are sewing a diagonal. You don't even know it. It's just like sewing a straight seam, because really that's all you're doing. Let me take out those 2 clips because it looks like I need to line up a little bit. There we go. And we're done. You'll want to have your iron ready. So we're going to be doing a lot of flipping and pressing like we do when we piece for quilts. I'm going to grab my iron with me while I turn around. There we go. Oops, I just wiggled the camera. I'm turning it into a mess all of a sudden. Okay, I'm going to flip the camera. I'm still getting everything set up for that new system, that new streaming system. And when that's done, I'm not going to have to do this crazy flipping through the cameras. I'm so happy about that. Okay, let's look right here. I'm going to put just a little bit of best press. You could use water if you wanted. Right on there, right on, just on the seam. I'm going to flip it. So flip it up in the up direction, I guess you could call it. Put my tailor's clapper on that for a second to absorb that heat and cool that seam down. Good. All right. So now I'm going to bring our camera back over to here. And as you can see, we've got a really funny shape here, right? So it's going to be pretty easy. What we're going to do is start up at this point. There we go. Start up at this point and come straight down. So, like I said, with this block, there's a little bit of waste, but I'm not overly concerned about that. I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to line up with this point. Come straight down. There we go. Then when I go to cut my diagonal, my lowest point on the diagonal is right there. So I'm going to place my ruler there. So then we have this block, and what we want to make sure that this block is 7 inches by 8.5. So we might need to trim up a little bit more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. So I'm going to trim off a 1/2 inch over here by 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so I just have a tiny, tiny, tiny bit to trim right here. And the reason we're doing this is because this is going to give us just a really nice squared up rectangular block. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to add to it 2 side pieces in the white fabric. So I pre-cut them. I've cut them a little longer than they need to be, but I'll trim them at the end. So I'm using a white dot, but it's white on white, so I have to make sure my right side is there. All right, so I'm gonna I'm gonna put a clip or 2 in here just to keep everything lined up. And I'm gonna go ahead and take my other piece with me. I'm gonna flip the camera over to the sewing machine again. And this time, hopefully I won't trip and cause all kinds of craziness. All right, so again, just 1/4 inch on everything for this little block, okay? Line it up. And that side is done. Trim my threads. Now I'm going to go over to the other side here. Make sure I've got it going in the right direction for those dots to be on the right side. And I'm just going to sew on this side. And we'll do all the trimming up and pressing when we're done with this seam. So if you're wondering about a foot, I'm using a 1/4 inch foot. You can use a walking foot. You can use any foot you want. Just know how to measure your 1/4 inch seam, regardless of what foot you're using, whether you measure off the plate of your machine or a piece of tape, whatever you do. That way everything will come out nicely. All righty. We're going to flip our camera back around again. All righty. Now let's bring the camera back this way a little bit. There we go. So I've got my 2 ends here. Actually, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off these edges. And I'm going to trim off this edge. All right. Now I'm going to press and press my seams. Put my clapper on there. This is my homemade clapper. This is what they look like if you buy them. Really nice piece of hardwood. Takes up that heat on the seam and really keeps it nice and flat. See how beautifully flat that is? Oh, love it. Flat seams are good. All right, we're going to flip this again, this one on this side, and press. I try not to do this. Oh, that's stuck over there. There we go. Good. I try not to do a lot of back and forth. Just I try to remember to lift and press. It just gives you a nicer seam. Now let's bring this back over here. There we go. So now we have, I'm going to turn it in the direction so that you can see it. So now we have our base block done. Here's the base of our cake and our second layer, but all of this is considered the bottom block, and we have the sides on. So now we're going to set that aside, and we are going to take up our middle layer. That piece needs a little bit of a press. Let me do that real quick. So this is our middle layer, and our middle layer has two, trying to see the right, yeah, that's right. So we'll end up having two edge pieces put on it. That's as hard as that gets. Clean that up. Put one clip in here. Just one of the mini clips. Make sure I've got my, there we go. And put that on this edge. And one mini clip. And we'll go back over to the sewing machine. After you get that first block done, this whole thing goes pretty quickly. Now, I suspect I'm going to have a little trimming to do on this one because I was off on my 1/4 inch just a tiny bit, I noticed at the end. So, but that's okay. Trimming up is always fine. Try not to get wrapped around the axle about those things. It happens to us all. It always happens to me when I'm filming. Okay. So we're gonna flip our camera again. One more time. There we go. Alrighty, so we have our piece here. And instead of using the best press on this one, I'm going to use my precision piecing pen to condition that seam. If you wonder what some of these tools are, you can check out my, I must have sewn this piece before. You can check out my videos called Good Gadgets because I usually, about once a week, I've started doing a little Good Gadgets video, just talking about some of the tools I use. Not supported or endorsing anyone particularly. These are just things that I use, that I enjoy using or found that have been effective and helpful in my piecing and in my quilting. So slap that down on there for a sec. So you can check those out. They're right here on my YouTube channel as well. There's a couple of them. There's going to be a third one come out this week because it's something new I've started. Okay, so now we have our block done, or our middle block done. And all we want is for our color piece to be roughly in the middle. So I've got roughly this side, roughly, so that's correct, right? Because that's how I measured it out to know what size to do these blocks. So I'm going to flip this over. Just make sure. There. And the first clip I'm going to put in is in that color block so that everything, oh, that's broken. I had a broken clip. I don't think I've ever had a Wonder clip break on me before. Maybe one, but it's very rare. I'm just putting a few clips in here to keep everything held together. I'm going to flip back over to the sewing machine. There, we'll fix that up a little bit better. And the nice thing about this block is you don't have to worry about lining up seams. Okay. So we're heading towards the home stretch already, if you can believe it. That's why after you get that initial block done, it's for the bottom, it goes pretty quickly, really. Okay. All right, so we're back over here. And press our seam. Oh, wait, I need to move the camera. There we go. I'm not putting weight on or pressure, just laying my hand there. There we go. Bring the camera back over. All right, so now we have our bottom layer and our middle layer done, and now we're ready to do our top layer, which on our original block is this one right here. Okay. So with this one, we've got two pieces of fabric before we add our side borders. We've got one smaller piece and one larger piece, and all we're going to do is sew this piece down onto here, flip it open, and then we'll come back and we'll add our side pieces. Actually, no, these are our side pieces there. All right, so I'm not going to flip the camera for this one. You know what I'm doing over here. I'm just sewing this quick little seam. So I was thinking that this would also be cute for celebrating like new mothers coming home with babies. You could make it in, you know, a traditional pink or blue if you wanted to, or make it in crazy colors and then add decorations in pink or blue if you wanted to. And also I wanted to tell you that if you wanted to make this specifically for someone with a name or a happy birthday or something like that, you could add an additional row or two here at the bottom and find yourself some letters that you could applique and applique your letters on here. Or if you are a machine embroiderer, you could embroider happy birthday, welcome baby, it's a boy, whatever you wanted to do like that, if you wanted to make it, you know, personalized. All right, so here is our top piece. Now we're just going to add these blocks to the side. And making sure I have my fabric in the right direction. It's hard to tell with these white dots. Usually, even with the white on white, I can tell pretty easily. But this particular one is a little more difficult. I'm just going to put one clip in each side, and I will flip the camera for this one. Because we're going to do this just like we did the last piece, where we're going to sew both sides on before we go over and press them. So you really can do anything you want to decorate this cake and to make it personal. And I know it's really popular to give personalized. So let's say you're a mom and you have a couple of kids at home. You could even have a whole mess of them at home, and they could each be a different age and be into different types of things. So you could have a teenager into sports or You could have a tween girl who's into dance or whatever the case may be. Yeah, see, I thought I put that right. No, I guess it is right. I thought maybe I'd put that backwards or the back side up again. This one's just really hard to tell. But you could make one of these little banners for each one of your kiddos. And then at the bottom, you could just put their applique or embroider their name on it, and then just bring it out for all the important things that happen in their life. Maybe you have a kiddo who's had a hard day, or maybe you've had one who's had to have surgery. That's pretty serious for anybody, much less for a kid. So you could put that out, make a special little welcome home if they had to be in the hospital or something. All right, so here we go. Now, I did not cut these the right size in width. So I'm going to be ending up trimming my sides down, but that's okay. That was a complete goof on my part. But it'll still work. All right, so back to our sewing machine we go. Oops. Got a little bit of threads to trim. Wow, I was off by like almost an inch on those blocks. It's very bizarre. Oh, well, like I said, you can always trim them up. I'm not worried about it. Since it's a banner and this is the main block, I can, I can fix it to be the size that I want it to be, right? Let's flip this again. Oh, good, there we go. All righty. Let's try. Wow, I was. Pull that seam down. So yeah, I suspect if you have more than one child at home, each child is going to want their own special celebration cake block. All right, so let me just trim this down. Yeah, I was like a good ½ inch off on each side on those blocks. Maybe I know what might have happened. When I was figuring this out originally, I used a different size block, and I bet I grabbed the wrong ones when I went to put my set together for the video. Those things happen. All righty, so here we have our block done. All you need to do now is take 2½ inch strips, one across the top, one across this side, one across the bottom, and one up the left side. So just sew them on in a clockwise way, or if you prefer top and bottom, side and side, you could do that, but I did mine in a clockwise fashion. But that's as difficult as it is to put this block together. So let's bring back my finished one like this, because now we're going to talk about what I think is actually the fun stuff, the decorating. Just trying to get my camera in here a little bit better. There we go. All right, so there is a product from Kimberbell Designs called Full Flowers. Now, you may not have full flowers where you live, so I'm going to tell you what you can use instead. But this is what they are. This is one package. And this is another package. And then this is their newest ones. This actually has white ones in there too. You just can't see them in the front, but there's little white ones in there too. And what full flowers are pretty much a ribbon that has, this shows you better, a ribbon that has been cut in these continuous petal shapes and then has a string in it that you pull it. And when you pull it, set this aside, you make these sweet little flowers. Now I didn't use, you get like quite a bit of each one. So I only used 12 petals for each of my flowers. Now I'm actually going to make more of these flowers because what I want to do is put flowers all across my bottom. But for now, we'll just kind of show you what I did. So I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to put one here, and I'll put one right there. And then I found this pretty ribbon that looks, it kind of looks like icing, little icing piping. So I'm going to put it right there. And then I found this trim in my trim box of ribbons, and that one will go there. And this one, this really pretty lacy one, I'm putting it right up at the top to kind of add that little extra something to the top of the cake. So, but I'm going to put a few more flowers on here, I believe. But so all I did was pull ribbon out of my ribbon box and start playing with it. And again, I didn't match up colors. I just chose things that I thought would make it look like it was decorated. I also have these super tiny baby pom-poms on a ribbon. You could use that. That would be super cute. You could do one between each layer. Now, you can decorate this however you want. You could use rickrack ribbon. Super cute on here. In fact, I might even find a piece of rickrack, or maybe I'll do the pom-poms right there because I think I want something there too. But you could do whatever you want with this. Now, regarding these pull flowers from Kimber Bell, I love them. If you can find, you'll have to find them at a fabric shop that is a Kimber Bell dealer. Or you might be able to find them on one of the big online shops. You might be able to find them at mygirlfriendsquiltshop.com. You might be able to find them at thatquartershop.com, thimblesquilts.com. Those are three online shops I know that they have like a main store and a online shop. And so you could probably find them there. However, I don't think any of them ship to the UK. You'd need to check with them on that. However, if you can't find these and you want flowers on there, don't worry about it. Because what I did for years before I ever knew about Kimber Bell, or before that company ever made these lovely little flowers, which I used to decorate things all the time. I wish they'd make like 6 more sets, because I'd be mixing and matching all over the place. But what I did is I would go to the craft store and get just artificial silk flowers. I take all the plastic and stuff off of them and just stitch them together underneath with a couple of loose stitches to hold them together. And then I would decorate with those. So you can do that. And it's really very easy to do that. So you can use that. Or let's say flowers aren't your thing, or you don't have access or whatever. So I told you I have these little pom-poms here, but you could get bigger pom-poms to put on here, single ones around it if you wanted to. You could just really do whatever you want. If you find, so we were talking earlier about having kiddos that were like into certain Disney characters and stuff. There are even some Disney ribbons out there. So you could do the cake in, like, let's say, we're going to say Cars. That just comes to mind. So we're going to do it in the cake in different shades of red and blue. And then if you can find a ribbon that has the Cars figures on it at your fabric store here in the States, look at Joann's. I know I've seen different licensed ribbons there before. You could put the character ribbons on here as decoration. So there's lots and lots that you can do to decorate this. But before we decorate, I want to talk about the quilting, right? Because that's part of what we do after we piece, we have to quilt. So if you notice, I didn't pre-sew on any of that, because what I'm going to do first is make my quilt sandwich, and I'm going to quilt my whole block. And then I'm going to use a product called Fabri-Tac or Fabri-Tac. Fabri-Tac. It's a fabric glue. And with that fabric glue, I'm going to literally glue my flowers and my ribbons down, because this is going to hang on the wall. It's not going to be, nobody's going to be cuddling under it or anything like this. So with the fabric glue, I have no problem with just gluing the embellishments on. If I were to be making this as a full quilt, what I would do is with my ribbons, I would tack those down when I'm doing my quilting. So I might take and just do a thin sewn line in there. I might match up my color thread on that to tack them down, or I might just put a little bit of glue, fabric glue under them, tack them down. And then as I quilt it, I would quilt those right on with it. And then regarding the flowers, the nice thing about the full flowers, now I've trimmed these, but you end up with this big long string when you pull these together. And it's just perfect for putting through the eye of your needle and sewing them onto your quilt. And so if I were doing that, I would definitely sew my flowers on. In fact, if I were making this as a full-size quilt, I don't know that I would use the dimensional flowers on it. I would maybe use different types of trims and stuff on it instead, just to keep it more flat. But there's absolutely nothing wrong. I mean, if you're making it into a quilt to hang it up, put all the flowers on it you want. If it's going to be used to cuddle up under, I'm just afraid these might get smushed and stuff. So I might use a different type of embellishment rather than flowers if I were going to do it as a full cuddling quilt, or a quilt that we were going to lay under, right? All righty. Put this back. So that is the celebration cake block. I hope you all enjoyed it and put up with my foibles today on this whole thing. Golly, I felt like I was all thumbs today when I was doing this filming, but some Mondays are like that, right? So I hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. Here, let me flip the camera back again. There's the sewing machine. Oh, I'll be so glad. I'll be so glad when I don't have to flip through the cameras that way. And it's coming. I think, like, I don't want to say next week because I'm going to jinx myself, but it's going to be really soon. And I'll just be able to pick which camera I want to flip to. And it'll be heavenly to be able to do that instead of flipping it through. I feel like I'm doing those old time, if you were in school back in the 60s when we had those old slides that we would show, slide decks we would show in school that were supposed to be like the equivalent to a movie, but it was a slide. Anyway, that's how I feel like it's flipping through like that. Anyway, all righty, folks, that's celebration block. I hope you enjoyed it. Zoe, my dear friend, I hope that met your needs for what you wanted. But like I said, any questions, pop them in the comments below. Pop them in over on the Facebook page, Heartfelt Creative with Diana. Please, if you're someone who likes to sew quilts and piece and all, join us over in Sew in Common. It's my Facebook group. You can post anything you make. Not my patterns necessarily, could be anything you make. And I've created that place as a safe place. Okay. A place where I don't do selling on there. I'll advertise for patches and pieces because this is all just us getting together and sewing, but I don't do my sales stuff on there. I don't allow sales stuff on there. You have to join and be approved only because about a month or so ago, my group and a bunch of other groups in the sewing genre got hacked. And when we got hacked, we had to make our groups private because my group wasn't private before. But Sew in Common, SEW in Common, lots of lovely ladies and gentlemen in that group, and all very, very talented. They'll answer questions for you if I don't get around to doing it, because sometimes Facebook doesn't let me see my own notifications. It's kind of a weird thing sometimes. But honestly, I have to say, where would we be without it, right? I mean, I know that I would not be in touch with friends that I have all over the world and family members that I have all over the country. So I'm thankful for Facebook myself. So anyway, enough of that. Join us though. It's a lot of fun. And you can post your pictures. You can ask your questions, anything you want to do like that. Okay. All righty, folks. Thank you again, as always, for spending the last hour with me. I know you have the opportunity to spend your sewing time with whomever and wherever you like. And it is an honor for me that you chose to spend this time with me. So go sew the world beautiful. Have a great day, and we'll see you again next week for Patches and Pieces.